In a dining room somewhere in America, behind the glass doors of a china cabinet that has not been opened in years, a stack of pink glass plates is catching the afternoon light. To the family who owns them, they are just old dishes, too pretty to use and too dated to display, the kind of thing that gets dusted twice a year and mentioned in a will as an afterthought. What no one in that house realizes is that one piece on that shelf, a single covered dish in the right pattern and the right color, is worth more than every other object in the cabinet combined. It has been sitting there quietly for the better part of a century, and one day it will be wrapped in newspaper, boxed up, and sold at an estate sale for $3 because no one ever thought to look closely. This is a countdown of 12 depression glass pieces that are quietly becoming priceless, and the thing that ties every one of them together is that they were never meant to be valuable at all. This was the cheap glass of hard times, pressed by the millions in the 1930s and given away for next to nothing, tucked inside sacks of flour, handed out at the gas station, passed across the counter on dish night at the movie theater. It was disposable, and that is exactly why the survivors, in the rare colors and the fragile forms, have quietly climbed from pennies to hundreds, and for a few, into the thousands. What separates a $5 plate from a $500 one is almost always the same short list of details: the color, the pattern, the exact form, and whether the piece is real at all, because some of the most famous patterns have been faked for decades, and the piece sitting at number 1 is the single most aggressively collected color in all of depression glass, teased here and saved for the end. Before the countdown begins, one quick favor: open that china cabinet, and if there is colored glass behind the doors, leave a comment with the color and the pattern name if it can be found, and there is a real chance it can be sorted right here, from a rummage sale leftover to a hidden treasure. And subscribe before the cabinet closes again, because the list climbs steadily from this point on, and the last 3 pieces are the ones most likely to be hiding behind that glass. Coming in at number 12 is one of the most beloved patterns ever pressed, and one of the most dangerous to buy or sell blind. Cherry Blossom, the delicate spray of cherries and branches that Jeanette produced through the 1930s in pink, green, and a soft, opaque blue. Genuine common pieces are affordable, roughly $15 to $40 for a plate or a bowl, but the prizes are the small and fragile forms, and a real child's butter dish can bring $400 to $800 on its own. Here is the catch, and it is a big one. Cherry Blossom has been reproduced for decades, and the fakes are everywhere. The single most reliable test is the cherries themselves. On an original, each cherry meets its stem with 2 small bumps, while the reproductions carry 3. The real leaves are lifelike, with serrated edges and natural veins, where the fakes look crude, with smooth edges and stiff parallel lines, and a faint orange peel texture in the background glass. And any cherry blossom in a color that was never originally made, a true cobalt, an iridescent finish, a bright light blue, is a fake every single time. Learn those tells, because the next pattern rewards the very same close eye. The next piece proves that even the plainest looking glass can hide value, and it sits at number 11. Iris, sometimes called iris and herringbone, a Jeanette pattern of tall irises rising out of a ribbed herringbone base, made mostly in clear crystal and in a warm marigold iridescent finish. Most iris is genuinely common, $10 to $30 for the everyday plates and bowls that turn up at nearly every estate sale. But the pattern hides a handful of quiet sleepers: the demi-tasse cups and saucers, certain vases, and the harder-to-find serving forms climb to 50, 100, and beyond, and a clean, well-kept set with no chips is worth far more together than the pieces would ever bring apart. The tell is the crispness of those raised irises and the sharpness of the herringbone ribbing, because iris has also been reissued over the years, and the later pieces are softer and less defined. Held to the light, a real vintage set has a delicacy the newer glass never quite matches. And if this one hides its value in the form, number 10 hides it almost entirely in the color. The countdown reaches number 10 with Windsor, often called Windsor Diamond for the sharp diamond point pattern that covers it, a Jeanette line made through the 1930s and into the 40s. In its common colors, clear crystal, soft pink, and green, Windsor is an affordable pattern, $15 to $45 for most everyday pieces, and that is where the story ends for the vast majority of it. But Windsor was also made in far smaller quantities in rare colors that change everything. Pieces in a rich Delphite opaque blue, and especially the scarce examples in true red, are dramatically harder to find, and they command $100 to $400 and more when they surface in good condition. The tell is simply the color, held against the light, because the difference between an ordinary pink Windsor bowl and a rare red one is the difference between pocket change and a genuine find. Color is the great multiplier in depression glass, worth many times more than the same piece in an everyday shade, and that lesson only sharpens as the list climbs. Number 9 takes a different route to value, hiding its worth in a single specialized form. Settling in at number 9 is Sharon, known to almost everyone who collects it as cabbage rose, a federal glass pattern of full-blown roses circling the rim, made in pink, amber, and green from the mid-1930s. Ordinary Sharon is one of the friendlier patterns to start a collection with, $10 to $40 for plates, cups, and bowls in the common colors. The prize in this pattern, though, is a single specialized form, the footed cheese dish, an unusual covered piece that is genuinely scarce and regularly trades from $200 to $500 and beyond in the right color. And there is a warning attached, because that very cheese dish, along with the butter dish and the sugar, has been reproduced. The reproductions tend to feel heavier and slightly oily to the touch, with a pattern that is soft and blurry rather than crisp, and a pink that leans too bright and bubblegum instead of the dusty rose of the originals. The valuable form and the faked form are the same shape, which is exactly why knowing the difference is worth real money here. Number 8 carries that same warning into another famous pattern, one that fooled the market for years. Number 8 belongs to Adam, a Jeanette pattern of stylized feathers and florals, arranged in a distinctive geometric spray, made mainly in pink and green in the early 1930s. Common Adam pieces are approachable, roughly $20 to $50, and the pattern has a loyal following for its crisp, almost Art Deco look. The better pieces, the covered candy dishes, the lidded forms, and the harder shapes climb comfortably into the hundreds when they are complete and undamaged. But Adam carries one of the most famous cautionary tales in all of depression glass. Its butter dish was reproduced so convincingly that it fooled experienced collectors for a time. The way to separate them lies in the fine detail of the pattern on the lid, where the veins in the design run the correct way on an original and the wrong way on the reproduction, a difference invisible to a casual eye and obvious to a trained one. It is the perfect reminder that in this world, the most valuable pieces and the most faked pieces are very often the same pieces. Number 7 is the pattern collectors have been burned by more than almost any other. The most heavily faked pattern on the entire list arrives at number 7, Miss America, a hawking design of radiating ribs and hobnail-like points that catches the light beautifully, made in crystal, pink, green, and a few rarer shades from the mid-1930s. In clear crystal, it is common and inexpensive, $15 to $40, but a genuine pink Miss America pitcher, butter dish, or pair of shakers can bring well into the hundreds, and that value is exactly why the pattern has been reproduced so relentlessly. The shakers, the butter dish, the tumblers, and the pitcher have all been faked. Original shakers carry a specific number of vertical panels and a particular shape near the base that the reproductions get wrong, and the original butter dish lid has a crisp knob and a tight, precise fit that the fakes never quite achieve. The reproduction glass often feels heavier and looks a touch too clear and modern. Anyone buying a valuable Miss America piece without knowing these tells is gambling, and the house usually wins. From here, the list leaves the everyday patterns behind, because the final 6 are the ones collectors truly chase, starting with a pattern where color is everything. That instinct to read the color pays off again at number 6, with Princess, a hawking pattern of elegant geometric panels, crowned by a delicate motif, made in the early 1930s. Green Princess is the version most people know, and it trades in a comfortable $20 to $60 range for common pieces. The money, once again, lives in the color. Princess was also produced in a lovely topaz yellow, in a rare apricot shade, and in scarce blue, and those uncommon colors, along with specialized forms like the footed pitcher and the covered cookie jar, Push well past $100 and climb toward $400 and beyond for the finest examples. The tell is to check the color against a white background first, then check the form, because a rare color princess pitcher can hide in plain sight on a shelf of ordinary green. This is a pattern where a trained eye at an estate sale can quietly walk away with a small fortune in a cardboard box. And number 5 hides its worth in a single rare color, the deepest blue the everyday patterns ever produced. Number 5 is Florentine, sometimes called poppy, for the little flowers stamped around it, a hazel atlas pattern made in green, yellow, pink, and crystal through the early 1930s. In its everyday colors, Florentine is a mid-range pattern, roughly $20 to $60 for common pieces, and it is easy to pass over as just another pretty 30s line. What lifts it onto this list is the rare cobalt blue. Hazel Atlas produced only a limited amount of Florentine in that deep, saturated blue, and those pieces are dramatically scarcer than the greens and yellows, commanding several $100s when they appear, especially the pitchers and the footed forms. The tell is the color, and specifically the depth of it, a true rich cobalt, rather than a pale wash, held to the light to confirm it runs all the way through the glass. Cobalt is the color that turns an ordinary depression pattern into a prize, and it is about to appear again and again as the countdown reaches its final pieces. But first, number 4 hides a tell that can only be seen in the dark. At number 4 is Cameo, affectionately known as ballerina or dancing girl, for the tiny dancing figure worked into the border, a hawking pattern made chiefly in green in the early 1930s. Common green Cameo runs $20 to $60, but the rare forms, the water and juice pitchers, the console bowls, and the scarce pink and yellow pieces, climb into the hundreds and past $800 for the hardest to find. Cameo also comes with one of the most delightful tells in all of glass collecting. Much of the green depression glass of this era was made with a trace of uranium in the batch, which means that under an ultraviolet blacklight, in a dark room, a genuine piece will glow an eerie, vivid green. It is not a myth, and it is not a party trick. It is a real property of the old glass, and it is one of the fastest ways to confirm that a green piece is a true vintage product rather than a modern imitation. Held under the light, it comes alive. The final 3 pieces now remain, the aristocrats of depression glass, beginning with a pattern whose rarest colors were barely made at all. Coming in at number 3 is American Sweetheart, a Macbeth Evans pattern of lacy, delicate scrollwork made from 1930 to 1936, most familiar in soft pink and in a translucent white called Monax. In those common colors, it is elegant but affordable, $15 to $50 for many pieces, and the Monax in particular has a luminous quality collectors love. But American Sweetheart hides 2 of the rarest colors in the entire hobby. For a brief window, a small selection of forms was made in ruby red and in a deep cobalt sometimes called Ritz blue, and only certain pieces, plates, cups and saucers, sugar and creamer sets, console bowls, and tidbit trays were ever produced in them. Those red and blue pieces are genuinely scarce, and a red console bowl or a complete red set can climb into the high hundreds and beyond, while even the Monax lampshades bring $400 to $700. The tell is color plus form. Red or cobalt American Sweetheart, in one of the few forms that were actually made in those colors, is a serious find. Number 2 is the pattern whose blue is unlike any other color in depression glass. Number 2 is Mayfair, often called open rose for the full blossoms pressed around it, a hawking pattern from the mid-1930s that stands among the most coveted of all. In pink, it is already desirable, with many pieces trading from $20 to $80 and the scarcer forms far higher. But Mayfair's glory is its blue, a soft, delicate ice blue shade that exists in almost no other depression pattern and that collectors pursue relentlessly. Blue Mayfair is far rarer than the pink, and the prices show it. The blue cookie jar alone can run from several $100s into the thousands, with the finest examples cited well past $1,500, and the rare blue shakers, the sugar lid, and the whiskey pieces each command serious money on their own. The tell is that unmistakable soft blue combined with the open rose pattern, because nothing else in the category quite matches that shade. A single blue Mayfair piece can be worth more than an entire shelf of ordinary depression glass. And that leaves only number 1, the color at the very top of the whole hobby, the one teased from the very beginning. And that brings the countdown to number 1, Royal Lace, in cobalt blue, the piece widely called the Holy Grail of depression glass. Royal Lace was a hazel atlas pattern of fine, lacy scrollwork made through the mid-1930s in crystal, pink, and green, all of them lovely and collectible in their own right. But the cobalt is a legend, and its origin is almost an accident. In 1936, Hazel Atlas had produced a large batch of cobalt glass for a Shirley Temple promotion that was then cut short, leaving the company with vats of deep blue glass and nowhere to send it, so they poured it into the Royal Lace molds. The result is the single most aggressively collected color in the entire hobby. A cobalt Royal Lace butter dish can run from $400 to well over $1,500. The cookie jars and the toddy and tumbler sets command their own premiums, and exceptional pieces have crossed $2,000 at auction. The tell is that deep, saturated cobalt paired with the delicate lace pattern, and, as always with pieces this valuable, real money justifies careful authentication. It is the aristocrat of a glass that was born poor. And here is the quiet irony of number 1. It began as leftover glass from a canceled promotion, the cheapest of accidents, and became the most treasured thing in the cabinet. Look back across all 12 and one thread runs through every single one. None of this glass was ever meant to be precious. It was made cheap, given away cheap, and used until it chipped, and the pieces that survived became valuable for reasons that have almost nothing to do with how they look on the shelf, and almost everything to do with a few specific details. The rarity of the color, the fragility of the form, the condition of the piece, and whether it is genuinely old or a clever reproduction. The people who let fortunes slip away in this hobby almost never do it dramatically. They do it quietly, by wrapping a pink-covered dish in newspaper and selling it for a few dollars at an estate sale, simply because no one ever taught them what to look for. So here is the one rule worth carrying away. Before any old glass leaves the house, before it goes in the yard sale pile, before it is handed to a stranger for pocket change, take it to the window, study the color, name the pattern if possible, check the form, and look hard for the tells that separate a real piece from a fake. Check your china cabinet before you let a single piece go, and never sell before you check. The difference between a $5 plate and a $1,500 one is often nothing more than 30 seconds and a little bit of knowledge. One last question, because this glass has a way of hiding in nearly every family's dining room. Which of these patterns is behind the glass doors of a cabinet in the house right now? And, be honest, which one already went out the door at a sale before its true worth was known? Leave it in the comments, because someone listening is about to go open their own china cabinet, and the next quiet fortune on a list like this one might be sitting on the shelf inside.